All right. Can you all hear me okay? All right. I'm
Yes.
excited about this. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started now. This is going to be great. I've been looking forward to this. Many of you have seen some of my different webinars and things that I've done, and we're really trying to provide information that we believe is going to impact people in places where it counts, places where it matters. And my wife and I, who's on here as well, Jyn Quinn up there, we were having a conversation just thinking about school getting started because we're a few weeks away. We're in August now, and school is right around the corner for those of us who are here in Michigan. And she and I were talking about what are we going to do? And we just started thinking about that. And she had already been talking to some of her friends, former colleagues. She's a educator by heart. And I had been talking to people and thinking through things. And we said, why not put together a webinar where we can answer these questions, get answers to these questions that we have. And we know that there's so many other people that have these same questions. So what we have been able to do is put together a panel of people who we hold in high regard. We have great respect for each of the people who are on this panel, and we wanted to pick their brains from the parents' perspective so that we could find out, yes, what can we do? How are we going to get started? And so here we go. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for registering. We are streaming on Facebook. And so here we go. Now, I want to say really quickly, the purpose of this webinar is not to complain about the problems that we're facing right now, at least from a decision-making perspective. We're not here to talk about why they chose to start school this way, or why is there a choice between stay home or virtual or in person. That's not why we're here. The purpose of this, and each of the panelists, we've had this conversation. The purpose of this is for us to talk about what are we going to do from our perspective, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person. How can you help make sure that your child, your students, have as much success as possible with what we're dealing with? We're not here for complaining. So any questions even about complaining and why did the board choose that or why did that, we're not entertaining those questions on this webinar because that's not the focus or the purpose of this. We want your questions about how these experts can give you information that might be able to help you do what you have to do during this school year with regard to your child. So with that being the case, we're going to be done with this. We're going to do our best to finish right at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to stop talking so much, and I'm going to throw this right on over to my wife, Jyn Quinn, who's on this panel as well as an expert and as a co-host. Jyn, can you go through and introduce our panelists and then give them an opportunity to introduce themselves?
Excellent. So each panelist, I'm going to just basically say your name and talk about our connection. And then if you would continue on with giving the audience a little bit of your own personal introduction. So I'm going to start with Robin Mccoy. So Robin, if you can unmute yourself. Robin is an attorney. She practices family law, and I'll let her share more about that. But Robin and I have known each other since young adulthood, and I've always been impressed with her passion and her integrity and her desire to help people and meet them at their needs. So Robin, if you can share a little bit about what you're doing and your expertise that you lend as you are a part of this panel.
Yes, thank you, Adrian and Terrence, for inviting me to be on this panel. My name is attorney Robin Mccoy, and I specialize in criminal defense, family law, and educational advocacy. And I've been doing educational advocacy for the past 3 years. So what I do is I help parents navigate the educational system. I help represent, like when students get suspended or expelled from school, I help to go in and do damage control. And I help when a child has a disability to help the parents to request an individualized education plan or a behavioral intervention plan. And I'm glad to be here. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. The next person I'm going to go to is Zarek Lake. Zarek Lake is a principal at MacArthur K-8, MacArthur Academy in Southfield Public Schools. Zarek and I also go back to young adulthood. We actually had one of our first jobs out of college together where we were tutors in a community program. I highly respect Zarek. I took notice of his skill in education early on during that tutoring program and just admired him as an English teacher and now as a principal. He's phenomenal. So Zarek, if you could share a little more.
I've been in education. Thank you so much, Terrence and Adrian, for having me on. I've been in education for over 20 years, and I'm so excited to be here to just share some information. I'm a parent as well, and I have some fears and reservations for myself as well and my family. So hopefully tonight we can share some information. I'm also the children and youth pastor of Christian Love Fellowship Ministries International in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Brenda Johnson, I'm going to come to you next. Brenda Johnson is a teacher consultant at PCCS, but I have to say, first of all, I just have to admit, I have great people in my circles. I've been in a lot of different circles, taught in different districts, lived in different communities. And so usually when people say, hey, I wonder, do you know this type of professional or that person or this kind of, I'm like, yeah, I do. So all these experts, we do have a personal connection, and you'll hear that, but that means that I know them personally and I see the work that they do, and they're just amazing people and truly kid-centered and kid-focused in everything that they do in life. So Brenda Johnson, I've known her since I was in my youth at a church, Christian Love Fellowship, and she's an extraordinary teacher. I've seen her work magic with students who seem most difficult to reach. Brenda, would you please share a little bit more about yourself?
Thank you, Adrian and Terrence, for inviting me. Yes. So my role in Plymouth Canton is a resource room teacher, but back when I was in Willow Run, I was a teacher consultant. And the past 3 years, I had an incredible journey with doing our pilot program, Social Emotional Learning. And I can't begin to tell you all the benefits and the advantages that program provided for students. I'll be going to Discovery in the fall, and I'm looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Speaking of Discovery, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Jyn Kaufman. Jyn and I actually taught together at Discovery for 7 years. She's a science teacher there. And she and I are often talking about the science behind things. She majored in science, I minored in science. So we have that connection to talk about what is going on with the science of a matter. And that expertise of hers, along with her educational expertise, really made her fit for this panel. Jyn, can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. And again, thank you to Terrence and Adrian for having me. Like Adrian said, I teach at Discovery. I've been the department chair there for 7 or 8 years, I guess. And but I've been there for 15 and have taught all the different levels of science of middle school. So I love the middle-aged school age kid. I have 3 daughters of my own, 2 of whom are also of middle school age. So I get a lot of middle school in my life right now. But I'm happy to be here and hope to be helpful to all the participants.
Excellent. Since we are still with the PCCS, we're going to go to our board member right now, Anupam Chug Sidhu, and we're going to, first of all, talk about the connection. I just noticed Anupam when she was leading our community on the school board, and we had a mutual friend who introduced us to one another, and when I met her, I really felt like I had a kindred spirit that I just bumped into. I felt so lucky. Anupam is a real advocate, a champion for children. And it's hard to keep that at your center when you have so many adults right in front of you. But that's something that I truly appreciate about her. Anupam, would you please share more about yourself?
Yes, thank you. I am the current vice president of the school board, as was just mentioned. This is my 4th year serving on the board. I was also recently appointed to Governor Whitmer's Return School Advisory Council to provide guidance on the roadmap that was rolled out June 30th for our schools. My full-time job is an instructional technology manager at Wayne RESA, where we provide a variety of services to Wayne County schools. So for those of you that don't know RESA, it's the Regional Educational Service Agency that provides support for Wayne County schools. My department's focus is really providing instructional technology support, resources, research, really focusing on online blended learning support and professional learning. Prior to that, I taught high school math and science, so I see a big science connection going on here. And I am also a proud parent of a 9th grader who will be entering Canton High School. I'm so glad to be here to join this important conversation, and thank you for inviting me.
Excellent. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce the TGQ Law Firm's very own attorney, Laurie Bruiss. Laurie is just an excellent person. She has a lot of experience connecting systems with people, and then her own personal experience as a parent in the school system and advocating for her children's unique learning needs. She's the perfect person to have on this panel as well. So Laurie, take it away.
Thanks, Adrian. I appreciate it. As Adrian said, I'm an attorney with the TGQ Law Firm, and we primarily practice estate planning and probate work. But I'm also a mom, and I have 2 kids, a 11th grader and a senior this year. And my 11th grader is on an IEP, and we went through the whole 504 IEP and ended up having to do school of choice out of our school district because it just didn't work for us. So my kids go to Saline Alternative High School, and we are nervous about starting back this fall, but that's why I'm really happy that this is being put together. It's great information, and I'm honored to be on this panel. Thank you.
Great, great. So as you all can see, these are people coming from various backgrounds, and one of the things that I hope that we accomplish is to allay some fears. One of the things that I want us to all know is that we are in a pandemic. We're in a very unusual circumstance, and every player, teachers, administrators, parents, students, are called upon to do their very best in an unusual situation, in a situation none of us have been in before. There are no easy answers, and there aren't a whole lot of answers. But what there is, what can be provided tonight are ideas and methods and ways to go about this year. And another thing that can be provided tonight are some resources. All of you who have registered through Eventbrite and through the Facebook page, if you've submitted your email, you will be given a list of resources that will help. And we'll talk about more of that as the evening goes on. But the resources includes organizations and services that you can tap into as you are going through the school year. All right, Terrence Quinn.
I'm ready to go. I'm raring to go. I got a lot of questions. We'll see how many we get through. I told the panelists that I'm going to be pushing and pushing. I hope they don't get mad at me afterwards. Don't worry, I won't be mean, probably. So let's see. Let's just jump in anyway. So on my little notes here, to get us started, I have the COVID response. And the first thing I want to know, so here we are, we're building up to the school year. School has not started yet. Some parents are panicking. Some are just trying to figure it out, whether they're panicking or not. What I want to start off with is what should parents be doing before school starts? And I know some of you are parents and you're in the same situation. What kinds of things should they be preparing for? What should they be looking out for? Somebody, what should parents be doing right now before school starts? I'm going to start calling on people. Uh-oh, you're muted.
I think, I'll go, Terrence. I think one of the things we need to start doing is just having conversations with our kids, really thinking about how they're feeling and what they want. You know, today my wife had a conversation with our daughters to ask them, what do you want? We're here making decisions for them, but we haven't even, asked them. And so she talked to them and asked them, and they both had different answers. So I think the first thing we can do now is have a conversation as a family, as a unit, and try to make the best decision for your family.
Yeah, when we were preparing, and originally when we spoke, you and I think Anupam as well both mentioned that. And Anupam, I want you to comment on that if you will as well. since that, it really hit me when you all said that, because I'll admit, and hopefully y'all don't look at me like I'm a bad person, but I was so busy thinking about how to get done what we have to get done that I hadn't thought about asking the people who have to do it, which are the kids. And so when you said that, that was enlightening for me. It was very helpful. Anu, can you add a little bit to that, or what do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. And, I think Zurich is spot on with making sure that we have a talk with our kids. We're open and honest and open up those lines of communication and listen to them and talk about what are their needs, because all kids have different needs. And some of them are scared, just like some of the adults are scared. And I think it's okay for us to tell them that we don't have all of the answers, that we will continue to work on getting as much clarity as possible. And as Adrian mentioned earlier, we are in a pandemic that none of us have experienced. We are learning new things about the pandemic, the situation, the virus, the schools, everything. Every day we get new information. So let your kids know that we're trying to digest and look at everything that's out there to provide them with the safest instructional environment at home and at school. So I would say stay calm, listen, offer the reassurance, be the role model, and because kids are going to pick up on your vibe. And so if you're anxious, they're going to get anxious. And so our job is to calm them and say, you know what, I love you. I don't have all the answers, but I know there are adults that are working on getting the best answers possible. And, as you're getting ready for whatever virtual environment or face-to-face, I would say start making routines, implement the routines, start, having those nighttime routines. And even when you're doing virtual, have a structured environment. And, I will tell you that when you're going remote in the fall, teachers will be teaching and there will be a structure to the environment, to the instructional environment, and there will be expectations for students for academic results. So I hope that answers your question, Terrence.
Yeah, it does. It definitely answers my questions. Thank you for that. Laurie, I'm going to come to you next, because you representing parents and you being here in your capacity as a parent, I'm curious to find out how those types of discussions, because I know you also check in with your kids a lot, and I've watched as you're a great parent, and I've watched how you have spoken with your kids and gauged where they are, and you're constantly aware of that. I'm curious, how have those discussions gone with you and your children? How are they feeling, if you're willing to share that, or anything around that topic?
They're very stressed right now. We had a discussion after I was able to listen to our school's rollout plan about, okay, there are two options. One is going remote, and one is going remote with gradual return to in-person teaching. And how do you feel about each, and what do you think, as a learner, what do you think you're going to be better off with? And knowing that there's drawbacks. And I think that with my kids especially, I have one who really, well, actually both of them really just are not that great at change, and really talking to them ahead of time and saying, you know what, this can all change in a day. And even, I've told you that this is what we're going to be doing, but again, tomorrow it could be completely different, and we just kind of have to prepare ourselves for that and understand that we might have to have a day where we just gather our bearings and move on, because it just is challenging.
Yeah.
So I think it's really, I'm sorry, Laurie, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay.
I was just gonna piggyback on that. I think having a space set up wherever you live for your children to be able to work remotely, it's probably a good idea, regardless of your school district's plan at this point, because we don't know where things will go in the state over the fall and into the winter. And so if you're not starting remote, kind of have a sort of thinking, maybe discussion with your kids, or just in your back mind, on the back burner, kind of imagining how you might structure your space so that there would be a spot in your home for your students or our students to work. I know at our house, we were surprised when we had the discussion with our children. We have two extroverts and an introvert. But they all expressed a real desire to stay connected to their home school. The district that we're in has some choices in terms of going all remote or having kind of a home base in your school, similar to what Laurie said, that will eventually transition to in-person. And it was pleasing to me to hear that they felt really attached to their schools. But even the, extroverts had a lot of anxiety about returning in person. And I think they overhear us talking about the risks and things. And so realizing that, like all parenting, this fall is about marketing. Here's what we've decided and here's how it's going to be, and having a positive attitude in front of your kids if at all possible. We believe in your schools. We believe in your teachers. As a teacher, I'd love it if you could express how teachers are going to be doing the best they can. They've got a lot to figure out as well. It's a new time for everybody. And know that we're going to be providing the very best educational experience we can. But again, I love what Laurie said about how things can change on a dime, and just keeping that conversation open with your kids so that they realize that we're all in this together.
Yeah, I want to come back to the whole topic of how can we set up our houses? Because many don't know. I spent a year in the School of Education, even though I, went on and did the law thing. So I have a little tiny bit of educational some, but Adrian's the brains behind this operation. Anyway, I want to come back to that topic even more and have us jump in more into giving the people on here ideas about how they can set their house up. But Brenda, I first want to come to you, because in your role, you are constant, for the years that I've known you, you have always been a complete advocate for the student. You've been there by their side. You have been someone who is concerned, among all the teachers and principals and everyone who are as well. You have been somebody that's been committed to being focused on what's best for the child and how do they feel. So on this topic about talking to your child, and we're spending a lot of time on this because I think it's important. What else should they look out for? How should they have that conversation? Any pointers or ideas you want to share about that? You're muted. You got to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, so thank you. Yes, there is. My computer is kind of playing with me this evening, but there are a couple things I would do. One, I would, first of all, and I like what so many of you all have said about the anxiety of returning. We have to admit that to our kids, that it's okay not to be okay, but then reassure them that we're going to be okay. And try that when you're speaking about school and returning, try to speak the positive things that could happen. The next thing I would do is I would have a family journal. And so in the evening, when you're structuring your family time, get that journal out and let everyone write or draw how they feel. And so that kids are expressing themselves, you're made aware how they feel, you're supporting them, and they know that it's okay not to be okay, but we're going to be okay. A couple things, and then I'm gonna be quiet. I would try two apps or two supports that I've shared with summer school. One is the Calm app. Throughout the day, take a minute and teach your kid how to calm down. So when these moments come, if you have to, get in a corner by yourself, do some breathing, go to that place of happiness, go to that place where you feel comfortable. Take authority over that so that the anxiety does not have rule over you. And then Headspace for Adults is a good app to use to work through the anxiety. I firmly believe we're going to get through this time, but we have to work smart.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. Let's jump over to, thank you all for sharing. Let's jump over to, talking about how we should set up these, our homes, these new home classrooms that we have to have. I've seen stuff online where people have turned rooms in their houses into what looks like, Adrian's old classroom when she was teaching elementary school or something, which is a great idea. Do we need to do that? What do you recommend? Any ideas? What kinds of things should the students have at home that will help them be successful? Anybody.
So Terrence, I think the first thing you might want to invest in, or make sure if you can, make sure you have some Wi-Fi. And because your technology will not work if there's not any Wi-Fi. So Comcast right now has the Essentials program. You might want to contact various companies your cell phone provider, your cable provider, if you have one, if you don't, but you want to see if they have something essential. So from essentials, meaning the basic, to you making sure that you can have a whole home Wi-Fi system. So right now in my family, when September hits and school starts, everybody will be on a device. Everybody will be streaming, and so we're going to have to make sure you have Wi-Fi. But if you can't have your whole home that way, just make sure you have something essential where that's through. I know Comcast is doing something phenomenal with I know T-Mobile is doing some things, but make sure you set up that Wi-Fi, because if you don't, it's going to really hinder what kids are doing online.
Yeah.
You know, just to
add to that, so I have a niece and nephew, and they actually are in Arizona, and I actually consult often with my mom with my work as an educational advocate, because she's a retired nurse, and we talked about what my brother and his wife would be doing, and my mom is actually helping with that. Then they decided to do things virtually. So they set up a space for their children, and they made sure that they have, the internet access and the laptops, things like that, things of that nature. I know before the pandemic, or like right before the pandemic hit, there was this discussion, when they had to go in the homes of whether everybody, that's the issue that they have in a lot of the inner cities and some of the rural environments, is that the kids don't have laptops and internet access. And so I saw with some schools, like in Detroit, there were laptops that were donated. And that's what I would say as an advocate. I would want to make sure that if the parents either have the laptops and internet access, or that the schools are providing, because there's funding available for general ed students and special ed students. And that's one of the, Ben Crump has a book, The Legalized Genocide of Colored People. And what he talks about is one of the issues as far as children of color and making sure there's equal access to education is making sure that everybody has laptops and internet access.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Great point. Hi, Laurie.
Well, can I
one
add
resource
to that?
I just wanted to add to it is, is that our library in our hometown has hotspots that they're giving to kids for free to use. And so there might be a free resource out there. And if your library doesn't have them, maybe ask them if they would be willing to get some, because they're willing to be involved in your community, and all you have to do is ask. But there are some free resources out there too. We're kind of a rural area around us, and that was an important contribution from them.
Wow. Good point.
Terrence, I wanted to touch base really quick, and then Anupam, I'll let you, want you to go. Some of us may not have like a room that we can dedicate. Some of us may not have that kind of space, which is fine. You can still achieve, successfully create an environment for your kids that isn't necessarily a whole room dedicated to be transformed into a school setting. If they have a place at the table that they know on this placemat represents my educational time. You can even create a divider with some, with cardboard or folders, or, if you can get a divider or just a screen, something that they can have in front of them that creates their cocoon of education. And if they don't need a cocoon, as long as they have their dedicated space. Like me as a kid, I wouldn't want a cocoon. I want to see what's going on. But, my sister Sarah, my daughter Jada, they want a cocoon. They want to close off the other distractions. So you want to consider what your kid needs. And you can also ask the teachers you're connected with, teachers from last year, teachers from year before, or, fellow parents. You can email me at the TGQ Law Firm, but find what will work for your home space for your kid. That's very important. Anupam, you 2 times you were trying to say something. So
That's okay. I just wanted to just add to the conversation. So two things. One is for the people that are in the Plymouth Canton community schools that are listening and watching, there was a survey that went out last week asking parents what you need. So make sure you fill out that survey. If you need a device, internet access, please be sure to fill out that survey. If you missed that survey, please reach out to the school district and say, hey, I missed the survey. Here's what my needs are. And they're working really hard to make sure that they're accommodating families with that. Secondly, to Adrian's point, you don't have to have a desk in a space. Every kid is so different. You know, I actually bought my son a little desk and a chair in a separate room, and he hated that. He's like, I just feel alone. I feel isolated. And so I do, you know, and the thing is when everybody's working from home as well, it's chaos at times. So I was working, you know, 12 hours a day, my husband, and here I'm trying to manage my kids somewhere. Sometimes I didn't even know where he was in the house. So what we ended up doing was really, as Adrian mentioned, carving out a little part of our dining room table where we would get together in the morning, we'd have our breakfast, and I'd ask him, what is he doing for the day? And then he would sit at that's where he wanted to be. He'd sit at the dining room table. I'd go downstairs in the basement, do my meetings, and then I'd come up for lunch. And just again, having the little routine, having that face-to-face conversation. And in the evening, and you know, this is a parent thing, I had to ask him, so what'd you do? And he's in a summer class right now, and he's not the most motivated kid. And I have to basically give him a notebook and said, okay, every day, online learning doesn't mean you just sit and watch the videos. It means you engage with the content, and more is being expected of you. So here's a notebook, and I want to see notes every day. And that was a game changer, because before he was literally, again, kids are learning this. They don't really know how to navigate the online learning environment. So passive learning is something that's not going to work for our kids. So as adults, as parents, we just need to give our kids a notebook and say, you know what, you need to take notes every day. And then you need to make a to-do list of what you need to do for each class and the assignments, and then check those off as you complete them.
Good
So
stuff.
that's all.
And then can I add, along with that, if a parent does not have that elaborate space, it's just to carve out some room at a dining room table and get like a dish pail and put all those belongings, all your learning belongings in there. Some of our kids struggle with organization. You know, I can't find this, I can't find that. It becomes a daily struggle. So if you can put your Chromebook, your notebook, your pencil, your markers, all of your learning tools in that pail, then put that in a safe place at night, and then in the morning go back to it. Also, make sure that you're journaling. You're writing down what you did for the day. Back in the day, I don't know if it's still in the middle school, where they had red books. So you wrote down what you did for math. You wrote down what you did for ELA, just so that you're aware of what you're learning. You can converse that or share that with your parents, because they're going to ask. Parents are going to ask, and you want to ask. I'm hoping that parents will approach this from a positive perspective, so that kids will feel free to engage in what they learn every day, but help them with the organization.
And I would jump into I agree with everything that's been said. I think two things. In addition to helping your kids learn how to organize, maybe it's the notebook, maybe it's the bin, if it's physical space, you know, that's all important. Another thing is this is an opportunity to teach them to reflect on their learning. And I know I ask my students all the time, did this work for you? You know, we've tried these 3 things this month. Which kind of discussion format did you like the most? And I'm asking them to think in that sort of metacognitive way. And you, I think, as parents have a real opportunity to help kids reflect on that as well. You could, before school starts, to say, here's our setup, but this is only plan A. And we're going to come, but, you know, just know that on Saturday or at the dinner table on Friday or Sunday morning after church or whatever you're doing, we're going to know that we're going to have a discussion about how this first week went or how this first month went or second week. And we can make changes. Like in the spring, I was similar to Anupam. I was surprised to discover that the spaces we had set up were too distant. And they all wanted to be in the same room. We ended up spending our kind of limited, you know, homeschool money on headphones. And it turned out to be brilliant because they could all be in the same space. They wanted to be near us, but they had to be listening. So headphones was the one investment we made that really did help. And so just look at this as opportunities and make sure your kids know that you can adapt. This is a really helpful thing to remember all the time anyway, right? We can be resilient in the face of these unexpected times, and we can adapt if it's not working. So this is just our first setup, and think about the headphones if you're going to buy anything.
Yeah, that was a great point when you talked about headphones.
Terrence, real quick, I'm thinking about parents who aren't able to work from home right now. And I want to just take a moment to first empathize with that struggle.
We're going there. Sure, I have a broad discussion on that, but go ahead, make your point.
My point is that I was just going to say we are going to be sharing some childcare resources.
Yeah, we're about to jump into the what we're supposed to do. Yeah. But I got to first talk about this opportunity that I just saw. You all just helped uncover something that's breakthrough. It's a breakthrough for my home. I just heard Adrian say that she doesn't like a pod. She needs to see what's going on. So when she disappears in her room from now on, I'm going to go in there and bring the kids. So I thank you. If nothing else, this panel has just blessed my household. Adrian, we're coming to see you when you go.
I'm muting your microphone now. No.
All right. So let's move into what you were talking about now. There's several questions, and I'm going to try to break them down into two, but several questions that I have from a parent's perspective about the decisions that are in front of them right now. So we're kind of backing up a little bit because most of the parents by now have had to select, I think, and at least I know in our district, but probably around the state, have had to decide what they want to do. Do they want virtual? Do they want in person? Or whatever option is there, they've had to choose. If they haven't yet, or whether or not they've made their choice, can you all talk about one, the virtual versus in-person dilemma that parents have? And then somebody mentioned when we were talking before about how parents should feel about the decision that they made. You know who you are, whoever mentioned it before when we were talking. Can somebody just jump in and comment just on this whole dilemma that parents are facing? Should I send them in person? Should I do virtual? What should I do? And
Yeah, I'll Terrence, I'll start because, I have, as an advocate, I've been, I was representing folks before the pandemic, and then we had to go from in person to in the home, and I had friends that they had to work with it. They had in homeschooling. My one friend made it Mama Jones homeschool, and then she did it Mama Jones camp. And what I will say is, what is my advice? If people ask me as an advocate, what do I think? I think it should be virtual, but I understand not everybody has that luxury of it being virtual. And I did look at in the resource materials, they showed different school districts. I was actually most impressed with Hamtramck because they said it was going to be virtual, but they said the school would still be open. And if they needed food or resources, that would work out. And then they said if the children with disabilities needed support, they could come in school. And then if the kids needed tutoring, it was available. But they said they were going to start with virtual. But for the people who have no choice, there are people who have told me they have to work. I would say you want to, I have resources. I'm sure there's other resources available. There are therapists out there. I think there should be therapy for the parents and for the children. And if I'm a parent, I would want to go get a tour of the school to see what the lay of the land is going to be. Like, what is that environment going to look like? What protections are going to be put in place? And if the school, I've heard of some schools having the parents, sign waivers saying, that they won't sue if their child gets sick. And me, again, I am an attorney. No, I would not be advising that. I would not, I saw Detroit, DPS didn't have anything like that. They had some really good, they have virtual town halls and some resources, but I would not, if you have a school with a waiver where you got to worry about that, then I would say try to do virtual or try to do pods. Like some of my super moms said that they have had parents that have formed pods where they're still following the virtual school situation, but they're also getting like a retired teacher or a college student who's learning how to become a teacher to be there with the kids, to give them added support. Because I will say this, during the pandemic, I had a lot of parents, clients, friends they were burnt out. It was funny. It was kind of funny to me because, and funny to my friends that are teachers, because, you know, I've been in there with those meetings and some of the parents are getting hostile with the teachers and I want you to do that. And then the COVID happened and the parents had to become the teachers and the parents were like, oh my gosh, I respect the teachers now. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine when is school going to start up again.
Look at all the educators on here who are grinning, but not trying to grin too big, but I'm sure they want to high five you right now, Robin. I'll say it. I don't care. But go ahead, Robin. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
No. So, I mean, if you ask me, and Nurse Pam, shout out to Nurse Pam, because Nurse Pam and I talk about this a lot. And I would say do virtual, but if you can't, I understand people have to work, then get some therapy. There's some therapy resources. Even if people can't, you know, afford a therapy, there's some therapy out there. The schools, I would really, if you, I don't know, I'm sure the schools have some resources, but if you guys don't, make sure you really press that, have a therapist available for the kids and for the parents, and give them, I don't know, I just did a video, I was watching a video yesterday for the courts where they were showing how they were going to reopen, and they showed a little video of how they're going to make things safe and taking people's temperatures. I think the schools, if you guys haven't done that yet, you should do that. To make everybody feel comfortable, like what precautions are going to be, you know, the social distancing, all of that. Because I have anxiety. I don't even have kids. I've got anxiety, okay, about all of it. So
yeah, and let me say this real quick. And Z, I'm coming to you, Zarek. I'm coming to you. So certainly with that question, I'm not, and this is the legal disclaimer, right? Robin is an attorney, so she can go at it like that. I'm not trying to back you educators into a corner and try to get you to tell the parents which way they should go. I'm not asking you that. I'm more asking you all how, it's fine for Robin to do that, as I've said. I'm really more asking you all, how should people approach that decision? And then how should they feel about the decision that they made? What should they do with it once they've made that decision? Go ahead, Zarek.
Yeah, so once again, conversation is vitally important in this. Make sure you're talking as a family, but whatever decisions you make, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Whether you choose virtual for the entire school year, half a semester, you choose in-person, hybrid. I was talking to someone in Pontiac, they're doing hybrid. Teachers are scared. Parents are scared, are fearful. Students are fearful. We're all in the same boat. Principals are fearful. And so it is okay to feel that, but we're all in this together, and we have to know that we're going to get through this. And I think us working together is going to make it even better. If we're continually being at odds with decisions that are being made, the hardest job right now in the world is that job of a superintendent. And them making these hard decisions for so many students, so many parents. And so I would say make your decision based on what you believe, not what your friends believe, but what you and your family believe and hold true. And then stick with that decision and trust that you made the best decision for your family.
And I like how you ended that. I was in conversation with someone the other day, a couple of days ago, who mentioned to me that he and his wife are in that dilemma right now, because their school is basically saying, making them make a choice and kind of in some way trying to push them into the choice that they want by saying, this is not, a local district. The school is saying if your students don't pick in person, then they cannot do any extracurricular activities. And so it's kind of boxing them into a corner. And I will say, I don't like that. I'm not asking any of you educators to say that. I'll say that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all for various reasons. I kind of understand why they would get there, but I still don't like that kind of ultimatum. But I love that you ended with owning that decision and being good with the decision that you make. But now I'm going to push you, Zarek, because I know I can do it with you, and anybody else brave enough to jump into this part of the discussion, please do. I'm going to push you a little bit. You said it's going to be okay. Well, I'm that parent who's on here right now who's thinking, well, how can you say it's going to be okay? How do you know it's going to be okay? And we're transitioning with that question to how can we make sure it will be okay? So how do you know, Principal Lake, that it's going to be okay?
So I know it's going to be okay because I know school districts are doing the best that they can do. And it's vitally important that parents, students, we require our school districts to be school districts. So as a principal, I'm expecting parents to call me looking for answers that I may not have the answer to, but they know that they can call me. And so our school, we should make sure that we're calling the teachers, we're talking to the teachers, we're talking to the principals, we're emailing various people, because we have to be in this together. So we're not all on the island. No, we're on the island together, and we're trying to make this work. So I would tell parents, and I'm saying demand nicely, but demand that schools provide what you need. We were talking about the hotspots. I know in my district in Southfield, they're providing hotspots and laptops. So if you don't have them, make sure you go to your district. And that's how I know it's going to be okay, because if we ask and we kind of demand what we need during this time, because we're all in this together. And I think if we're all in it together, that's how we're going to get through this.
Gotcha. Adrian, I want to come to you on the same question, because I know Zarek is a good friend of yours and you would love to have his back with the comment he just made. What are your thoughts about it's going to be okay? Why should a parent move into this unknown territory that we're all moving into and believe that it's going to be okay? How can they make it okay?
Well, first of all, I think as a parent, it's the decision you make for your family. In this pandemic, the Quinns are going to be okay. We're going to make it through. We're going to support one another. And we're going to engage with our schools and our teachers, trusting they're doing the best they can, and we're going to do the best we can. In every school year, I approach it as a parent, as the frontline first person advocate for my child. I approach it like this. My child's best school year depends on me. I'm their best advocate.
That's right.
And so I'm reaching out to the teachers. I'm reaching out to the principal. At this point in the summer, with all that's going on, I'm reaching out to Superintendent Merritt. I'm reaching out to board members, because I want them to know how I feel. I want them to know what my kids need. And the next most important person in my child's education, besides me and my child, is my child's teachers. So we are going to be the closest partners. I'm not going to get a welcome email from them before they get a welcome email from me. And I'm only doing that because I want to know that the communication is wide open and we're in this together. We're on the same team.
Now, the benefit of hearing you say that is you've been teacher for years and you're parent. And so you understand the dynamic from both sides. I want to come to Jyn and Brenda in particular. Zarek launched that part of the discussion. You supported it. I want to hear what they have to say about this idea of parents reaching out to their teachers. Because initially I would think if I send them an email or if I'm calling them, they're overwhelmed trying to figure out what they're going to do. Why would I add to that? Sending them an email, will they respond? And then is it just teachers that we should reach out to? Is it principals? Zarek, Brenda, is it the other staff members that support the child? Go ahead, Jyn.
No, I always ask parents, it's always in my intro letter, and I always send an email to all of them to ask them to send me a few sentences about their student. Almost all of them do. And I'm a firm believer in making that first contact if Adrian doesn't get to me first. I've not had a Quinn child in my room. But I love having that connection made early in the year. And I try, my personal family knows that first weekend of the school year, maybe people go out on their Labor Day weekend, and I try to respond to every parent. And it's really kind of it's a ritual that I like, just to make sure that before we've really gotten into the school year, as many people who have written me, I've responded and I've made that first contact. And I do take notes and I do follow up on the things they say their kids are interested in, and make sure that that isn't just a sort of a stamp, but it's the beginning of an actual relationship. And so I love it when parents reach out. I would love to get a whole letter all about every child. That would be wonderful. So I would highly encourage parents to do that. And then I, ask the same of students. This is not a surprising teaching thing. Any good teacher would tell you. I always ask the kids on the first, sometime in the first week, we're getting to know each other. How do you learn best? What can I do to help you learn better in my room? Here are some things I think we'll be doing. What have you had success in? What have you thought about science before? I'm a science teacher, and I tell them a little bit about me. I was, an epidemiologist, a real scientist before I became a teacher. And what do you think that means? And just to, again, I'm about this metacognition and reflecting on learning as a thing that's happening, because, adjustments can be made. So I think the more communication that can happen with the family early on, the better. And in this odd virtual time, especially, because we all have to be reflective on our practice. And so what is working? What is not working? Let's stay in touch about this. Does your child need less screen time? I think the one last thing I might say to parents to think about as I eye our time, it goes so quickly, is, just like when that, baby came into your arms the first day, or child, if you adopted an older child, you're the parent. The buck stops with you. If you feel like, we're just done. We have had enough screen time today. I'm going to turn off the screen and we're going to go outside, or we're going to have a family board game, or we're going to have a meeting this, we're going to cut out at 2 today or noon today. We can't do this again all day. We need to reset. We had a meltdown. We had a situation. I think you have to know that the buck stops with you. You are ultimately your child's most important educator, and we are all your support staff. And I would want to have communication about that. So just, keep it going and keep it all open, and make sure if things aren't working, you let your children's teachers know, or child's teacher know if they're in elementary sooner, what's working, what's not working. So that's all I'd say on that.
Brenda, can you comment quickly on this as well? We are running out of time, but I want to get this, and I have a couple more questions I'm going to try to get in here. You're muted still, Brenda. Sorry.
Okay, so basically, my main goal is to see what will work best for parents. If texting will work best for you, then that's what I'm going to do. I learned a lot from March to June, what parents liked and what they did not like. And I allowed them to have that conversation with me. A lot of parents didn't want another WebEx meeting. They were tired, they were done, they were over it. But I said to them, will you text me once a week and let me know what you want? And every parent on my caseload responded in a positive way. And then I went to the next level. So I, formed that relationship, that electronic relationship by texting first, and then every other week we had our WebEx meeting. So I think that's what's important. Find out what will work best for parents and not overwhelm them and not stress them. Another thing I shared with parents is, again, and I shared with you all this evening, it's okay during this season not to feel okay. It's okay. And if you have a need, let me know. And parents know that they can reach out. They tell me some things I don't even want to hear, but I'm so grateful that they're comfortable in sharing some of that information with me. I think we just have to stay open. We have to stay on this journey together, and we have to stay focused on what's important.
Gotcha. Here's what I'm going to do. A couple questions to close out this next 5 minutes that we have. But I'm going to ask, and panelists, don't get mad at me, if you'll stay for 5-10 minutes max extra. Any viewers after 8 who want to jump off, just jump off. I'm going to try to open it up for questions just for that final 10 minutes and see how that goes. And hopefully I don't get in trouble for it. But having said that, so there was a question there that I do want to see if you all can chime in on. These parents who have to work, and we talked about this some already, but their kids have to go virtual. I don't even know a question to ask other than what should they do? So the educators that are here, what things come to mind? Anupam, I know you just unmuted yourself. You ever thought about that?
Yeah, my heart goes out to every parent, whether they're working from home, working outside, single parent. This is one of the toughest times for parents. And as Brenda was saying, if you need to talk, reach out. This is a time where you can't do this alone. And this is why I applaud the Quinns for pulling us together to see what we can do collectively. So I know Adrian's going to share a list of resources with you at the end with some options. I just wanted to share with you that the board is really trying to get some viable solutions for working families. We know this is this is tough. We know families have to work outside the house. We know little ones can't be home alone. And so my heart goes out to each and every one of these parents. So please do know that, and I see Patty in the audience here. Patty's the president of the school board. Patty and I talk constantly about what can we do? What suggestions can we provide? And we have sessions with the superintendent and other board members to talk about how can we support families. Please do know that they are looking into solutions. There are some things that they have to work through, but they are looking at solutions, and just we'll keep you posted through Adrian and whatever resources that she shares out with the group.
Zarek, do you have a thought about this as well? I know you're coming from a principal's perspective, but you have children as well, and you and your wife both work. What are your thoughts about this? What's available?
So I know one of the things in Southfield, they are partnering. They have a separate company that actually handles child care. They are providing actually one of our buildings as a place where people can come and be a part of that child care facility. I know some other districts are doing that. And for those who cannot afford child care, there are other places and means and scholarships that these companies have, and that you just need to reach out and ask what type of scholarships can be afforded. And so I think that's a couple of things. Once again, talk to Board of Education, talk to the superintendent, talk to the various people, and ask what are they providing for those parents who they have to work. Another thing I would suggest is if you have a close family member or some close friends that you may have been or can quarantine with, or they can get together and somehow work out a plan of being at their house a couple days a week, that's something to work out too. Once again, we're in this together. Everybody, we got to put our heads together to kind of really think outside the box and think outside of the norm, and really think about some new things where we can actually help our families, for those who cannot, they have to work and just cannot be home.
Yeah, good stuff. This is what I want to do. I'm just going to ask if everybody, each panelist, will go around and just give a final takeaway. Give us like 20 to 30 seconds, please. Just 20 to 30 seconds. A final takeaway. When you're done, anyone, feel free to jump off if you need to. We'll spend 10 minutes only, if the panelists will allow me to, 10 minutes only answering questions. So I'm going to start with, I'm just looking at my screen here. I'm going to start with Brenda, go to Zarek, then Anupam, and then Adrian, and then we'll go through the rest of the group. Brenda, can you give a final takeaway since we're at our time? What's the final thought?
Yeah, so my final thought and comment is, and what I want for parents to know is that our district is here to support you. If texting works for you, then text. If Zoom meeting works for you, then let's Zoom meet once a week or however often you need. If you have needs, let's discuss those. If you need help with organization, with motivation, let's discuss those things. We are here to support you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We have so much more we could go into. We could talk about this for hours. Zarek, what's your final takeaway?
I agree with Brenda. So many times, where it's almost as if it's the school district versus parents, and it shouldn't be versus. It should be we're together in this, and we should be a family trying to work out this crazy time. And so I would say let's partner together. Let's not be at odds with each other, but let's be partners during this time. We need each other to make this work and to thrive. And so if anything that I could speak is that let's be partners.
Got it. Thank you so much. Anupam?
Yeah, I mean, those are beautiful words. And so just to echo that and to summarize what we talked about is listen to your child. If they're quiet, that's a sign as well. And so reach out in different ways. And if you don't have the answers, say, you know what, I don't know, but I'm going to look into it. And reach out to your child's teacher to see how you can support the learning experience. if they're going to have Zoom nights, hang out with their child during those Zoom calls. And as Zarek and others have said, let's support each other. We are all trying to do our very best. Each and every one of us is here because we care about kids. We care about our community. So I know together we can do more and we can do better. So let's continue these conversations.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to go Adrian, then Jyn, then Robin, and then Laurie. Just going in order on my screen. Go ahead, Adrian.
What I want to share to our parents and our families who are having difficulty with childcare, Zarek's idea is great to see if they're, you have friends or community members that you can partner with that. But I also want to point out to you childcarenetwork.org. I wrote it in the chat. It's an organization, a nonprofit organization in Michigan that is dedicated to helping families find childcare, affordable childcare. So please reach out to that organization if you are having a tough time getting your needs met while you are having to go to work. And there are other, paid organizations that I know of that we will be sharing as well. But the Child Care Network is specifically made for people who are having difficulty finding childcare.
Great information. Jyn Kaufman, your turn.
Sure. And again, I just think the most important thing is to keep lines of communication open between you and your child, but also between your family and your school district. And don't be afraid to ask for what you need. If it's help with, getting a hotspot, if it's help with getting a device, if it's that you need food, if it's that you're having issues with childcare, if the schedule is just not working for your kid, or you signed up for virtual and now you want to go face to face and it's just driving you crazy, your kid crazy to hear people at school. Maybe you live near the school. Maybe you want to switch. None of us know how this is going to go. And I think you owe it to yourself to give yourself, a little freedom to make a mistake. Let know that your child knows you're going to do the best you can, but we'll have to reassess. You have to just keep circling back and keeping that communication open. So I would say, don't be afraid to ask for what you need. There's a lot of resources out there, and I know the Quinns are going to share many of those local resources via email after this.
I'm so glad so many of you all are saying, reach out, keep the communication going. I think that's right on point. And it's good to hear you all say that, because you're the ones that they would be reaching out to in many cases. Attorney Robin Mccoy, your turn. And then we'll finish with Attorney Laurie Bruiss.
Yes, again, thank you. So what I would say too is, we want parents to be proactive. I mean, there's right now, this is a time, I know that we have a lot of people reaching out to us because there are folks that are having issues with they're being evicted. So there are lawyers out there. There are lawyers group that help with evictions. People are worried about food. They're worried about getting unemployment. So I see a lot of people when they're in crisis. So it's like we do this kind of programming to prevent, like if you're a parent, don't be ashamed to say, I need help. Go, I suggest look at the website for your child's school, do what you have to do for enrollment. There are agencies out there, Student Advocacy Center, that help with enrollment, and then if you have a child with a disability, we still can, what I do is I help parents to write letters requesting an individualized education evaluation, a plan. And I just had a young man, he's 17, he had some struggles, and we got him assessed, and we found out he was dyslexic. He's had an IEP since he was in kindergarten. And I'm frustrated about that, but I'm happy that we have this diagnosis to make sure he gets the right support. So that's what I would just say to the parents. If you think your child has a disability, we still can request IEPs, evaluations, and it'll be, in some cases it's virtual, but you really want to make sure that your child gets all the success, support they need to be successful, whether it's virtual or in person. Consult your pediatrician as well. I saw an article from Sanjay Gupta. He said he looked at the environment, like the stats for where he was, and he just decided he was going to go virtual. But I think you want to just look at the stats, look at the CDCs, look at where you are. You may not be, and we keep talking about the internet hotspot. You might not be in a COVID hotspot. Maybe it's okay where you live. You just got to look, it's better to have knowledge about what's happening around you than just hide from everything. and then you're in crisis and it's really bad. So just ask for help.
Good stuff. Last but certainly not least, Attorney Bruiss, the parent representative here.
Thank you very much. One thing that I learned from this group of panelists that really struck me was that communication with the teacher. And I've already started preparing my letters about my kids, and my kids are in high school, so they really can talk for themselves, but I think the teacher needs a little information from me too. And don't forget, your child is a different learner online than they are in person. So kind of take some of the experience you had in the spring and make sure the teacher understands how your child pays attention, doesn't pay attention. You know, are they doing 10 things at one time like my son is, because he's got to be watching a video over here while he's trying to do his homework. So just whatever kind of student they are, just make sure that teacher knows, especially now that it's virtual, because they won't have the time with your kid to get to know them personally.
Good stuff. You all are amazing. Thank you for taking the time to do this. All the viewers, thank you for joining us. Hopefully you learned something great, and hopefully you got a lot of good information that you can use this school year. This is new and different for all of us in the world, not just in my little city where I am. And we're gonna, as Zarek said, I agree, we're gonna be okay. Especially if we take the advice of everyone that spoke today. I think we're going to be okay. And my mom always said, and she's on here, I think I saw her pop on here at one point. She told me when we first had our child, she said, Terrence, you and Adrian are your child's biggest advocates. And don't ever feel bad about advocating for your child. She said, no matter what other people think, do that. She said, even if it's me and I have a different opinion, you have to be your child's advocate. So thank you all for being on here and getting this information from these panelists. And thank you, panelists, for joining us. I am going to end it here, though I will offer just a couple minutes of questions. If you have a question, if you know how to raise your hand, please do, or put it in the chat box. I see a question here from Kara. Thank you for that question, Kara. Will this recording be available? We will have it on, yes, it will. It'll be on the TGQ Law Firm Facebook page at some point, and hopefully by tomorrow or I don't know, this weekend. But it'll be up there, so you can look for that. We will also, as Sarah just posted, have it at the website at tgqlaw.com. So it'll be posted on our website as well, the entire conversation. Any other questions, you can put them in the chat box, or if you know how to raise your hand, raise your hand. We'll just wait a few minutes.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Gina. Gina Tebow, she's running for school board. Thanks for joining us tonight, Gina, school board for Plymouth Canton Community Schools. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Any other?
Terrence, this is not the shout out portion, is it?
It can be. It can be.
Oh, I was gonna shout out, hey, to my wife, Shamika. Hey.
Yeah, you better do that, man.
I was gonna say, you guys, of course, you know that if you are worried about estate planning issues, you can go to Terrence to make sure you get your will, get your durable power of attorney for health and finances. I mean, if you're a parent or a teacher, as I said, it's better to be preventative and cover all your bases than to be worried about it. Don't worry. I mean, just do preventative work, okay? Prevention is worth an ounce of the cure, okay?
I did not put that in the notes, you all. I did not ask Robin to say that. Just so you all know. But it is true. But no, I didn't ask her to say
right,
that.
It's true.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, any questions before we close? We're going to close it out. Just trying to leave it open for final questions. There being none.
Terrence, this is Chris. I don't know how to raise my hand, I'm sorry to say.
No problem. No problem.
But I wanted to just say, this is my 6th Zoom meeting of the day, and by far the most beneficial one I've been at all day long. Will you be doing more of these? Because I want to hear more of what your panelists have to say. And as a teacher, like I have ideas now that I didn't have yesterday, you know, of how I can help parents. And so like, I would love to know you're doing more and be able to get that word out to more of my colleagues and family friends.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for joining us and being on, and thank you for that compliment, panelists. You heard that. You all have done a great job. It's you. It's not it's you all who did that. So thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom voluntarily. I'm grateful to you all for that. We'll talk about that. I don't know. Hopefully there will be an opportunity to do this again. Maybe we'll circle back once school gets started, something like that. If I can convince all of these wonderful educators to join me again, maybe we will. But just look out on our Facebook page and also on the website, tgqlaw.com, and we'll be posting information when we're going to do it again.
And we will definitely be sharing this on this. You can definitely go to our Facebook page to share this video once we've posted it with your colleagues and friends and family.
That is correct. Gina T-Bolt, I saw that you had your hand up. Do you have a question or comment? I saw your hand went back down too.
No, actually, hi Terrence. No, actually I was clapping for what Chris had said. I was trying to do the hand clap, so maybe that was raising hands, so I don't know how to do the reactions
maybe
either
I
then.
recognize it correctly. I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you though.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any final questions before we go? Going once? Going twice? Panelists, thank you so much. You did a phenomenal job. You did better than I even envisioned. And we're just going to end there. So I'm grateful to you all. All parents, all educators, have a fantastic school year. Just go in with the best attitude that you can. Make it great for you and for your students. You know, this is tough for them. It's tougher for them probably than it is even for us. Because it's so different. They won't see their friends. They have to learn in a different way. So let's just support them. Let's go in with great attitudes. Let's partner with the teachers and the other educators in the school and in the districts. And let's just get through this year. Let's get through this year and come out on the other side better. All right. Thank you all for your time. We're going to go ahead and end there. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.